Welcome to the Leading Owls podcast, brought to you by Rice University's Dorr Institute for New Leaders. Each week, we bring you inspiring stories and practical tips from successful student leaders, faculty, and staff, along with leadership experts and coaches that will help guide you in your own leadership journey. In this episode of the Leading Owls podcast, we go behind the scenes with Rachel, one of the 2025 OWEEK coordinators for Jones College, whose leadership is shaped by creativity and a deep love for all things Rice. From her time as a floor rep and associate justice to leading as the arts and wellness coordinator and Jones pit crew member, her journey is all about showing up for her college and finding joy in the process. She shares what inspired her to take on the challenge of OWEEK coordination, how the planning process really works, and what she's most excited for as Jones welcomes its newest owls. We also talk about her involvement with the Rice Association for Women in Mathematics and R2, the Rice Review, and how she balances creative and academic passions. Whether you're a first-year student wondering how to get involved or a seasoned owl looking for new inspiration, this conversation offers honest reflections, helpful advice, and a whole lot of Rice pride. Please welcome Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So just give us a quick rundown, your name, residential college, year, and major.
My name is Rachel Parr. I am a sophomore at the one and only Mary Gibbs Jones College, and I am currently a math and English double major with a concentration in creative writing.
I love it. So let's talk about OWEEK. What inspired you to apply to be a 2025 OWEEK coordinator for Jones College? The one and only Jones College.
The one and only. I currently live with one of the OWEEK coordinators from my freshman year, and she's a good friend of mine, and that friendship started during OWEEK, so she really heavily encouraged me to apply because it was an experience that she really valued and kind of the origin of our friendship and the way that we ended up being roommates. And I also had my OWEEK mom that was a coordinator at Jones last year. There's just a ton of people in my life telling me to go for it because I had kind of expressed interest before. OWEEK was such like a transformative time for me personally. I'm still good friends with a lot of the people in my OWEEK group. My RA had even encouraged me to apply, and so I just decided to go for it. My little brother was applying to Rice at the time and has since been accepted and decided that he's going to legacy into Jones. So that was a fun little surprise that I would get to coordinate his OWEEK. So yeah.
That's so exciting to have your brother here. And this is his OWEEK. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Oh, that's so special for you. What has been the most surprising, besides finding out your brother's going to come in and be in Jones, what has been the most surprising or exciting part of planning OWEEK so far?
I anticipated becoming close to my co-coordinators here at Jones. I kind of knew both of them already just a little bit, but what I didn't anticipate was becoming so close to other coordinators across campus. It is genuinely such a unique experience to be an OWEEK coordinator. We spend a lot of time talking about like, how are we going to conduct interviews across colleges, matching up timelines for co-advisor stuff, coordinating when we're doing things, putting together presentations for advisor training, that sort of thing. And I've become really good friends with some of the coordinators at other colleges that I hadn't known before, and better friends with people that I have. And I think that's really delightful.
That is really special. That's one thing I'd heard about people that they love their residential college, but they do wish there was more inter-college interaction. So it's nice that you guys have found that as OWEEK coords.
Yeah.
Can you give us a behind the scenes look at how how the planning process works?
So I think one of the biggest misconceptions about the way that OWEEK planning works is that people think that we're figuring out like specific events now. The spring semester is almost entirely focused on putting together an advising team. And for Jones, that looked like about 60 hours of interviews across individual interviews for Jones advisors, group interviews for co-advisors, individual interviews for co-advisors, and then prepping for things like co-advisor reveal and those sorts of things. I don't think people realize just how much work is put in on the back end of just picking advisors and like the level of detail that goes into that, because it seems a lot more frivolous on the surface than it may actually be.
What is one thing you're most looking forward to for this year's OWEEK?
I work really well with my co-coords. We have a pretty similar vision for OWEEK. And so I think that helps to I can kind of see it coming together even before we started planning specific events. And I'm really excited to see how that vision aligns and what comes out of that like shared experience that we're trying to build for the freshmen.
What do you hope the new students at Jones will take away from their OWEEK experience?
The immediate answer is like a sense of community and a sense of Jones pride. But beyond that, I think a sense of themselves. I learned a lot about myself during my OWEEK. I changed my major like twice before the end of O week. Every academic planning session, I was going in with like a different concept of what I wanted to do. The concepts that I landed on during O week is relatively similar to what I'm doing now. And so I think just facilitating that self-growth and that community building and those friendships that will last and that sense of self that will last and get them through college.
So, big question, what is Jones's theme?
So this year, our theme for Jones O Week is UFO Week, first contact with a new generation of Jonesians.
I love that. That's so different.
Yeah. It was kind of one of those like TV writer's room moments where it came together. Someone said UFO Week, and I was like, oh, we're making first contact. They're finding their new home planet, and it just kind of came together. We kind of rolled it up into one. Yeah.
I love that. So you've held so many roles at Jones, floor rep, arts and wellness coordinator, associate justice. How have those experiences shaped your approach to leadership?
So coming into Rice, I didn't actually have a ton of student government type of leadership experience. I had done other kinds of leadership in more informal ways. But when I was introduced to the floor rep position, which is essentially just a way for freshmen to get involved at Jones, I was really excited to get into it because I'd always been intrigued by the concept. And then from being floor rep, I learned to build connections with people at Jones, and I started an event that has continued like past that year. I do Friendship Bracelet Fridays every Friday, even now, and that started as like a floor rep thing. And I think that my role as floor rep kind of evolved into my role as an associate justice and as arts and wellness coordinator. And it's kind of rolled over and continued to teach me how to engage with people, how to manage a team, how to meet people where they're at, and kind of just how to engage with people in a way that allows them to feel comfortable coming to you with things and to feel comfortable like when I have to go deal with a noise complaint. I know that the people on my floor aren't going to like lose their minds about it because we have a good relationship, and I can be like, hey man, turn it down. And they'll be like, okay, cool. I think leadership is more than holding things over people. It's about connecting with them where they're at so that you can accomplish the things that you want to accomplish.
That's so wise, forming those relationships so that you have respect already built in when you have to lead and have harder conversations.
And on both sides too, right? Like I'm respecting them and they're respecting me right back.
Yeah. Now, are you wearing any of these friendship bracelets that you have made?
So I didn't make all of these, but I made most of them. Out of the one, I'm wearing 12 friendship bracelets.
And I'll put a picture on our social media so you can see everyone who's listening.
Yeah. I'm wearing 12 friendship bracelets. I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the 12. The other 4 were made for me by friends of mine.
That's so nice. Are any of them Jones themed? Or are they kind of various themes?
Basically, this wrist is the Jones ones. So 2 of these were actually made for me by a friend of mine's sister who has nothing to do with Rice and nothing to do with Jones. But she asked him what my favorite color was, and he told her that my favorite color was green and that my hair was purple. And she put together these purple, green, and white friendship bracelets that go so well with my Jones friendship bracelets.
Me too.
And then I have one that was made for me by a Jones freshman that says Pookie on it, in the Jones colors, because she was like, "You're just so Jiba." I had to make it blue, green, and purple. And then I have one that says 1957, the year that Jones was founded. And then this bracelet actually matches with both of my co-coordinators for this O week and the Jones president and CJ. So I made all of us matching bracelets as like a leadership team for this upcoming O week. And then this one is just a blue, green, and purple heart, like a green heart, a blue heart, and a purple heart. One of my future roommates has a matching one that's stars instead of hearts because she's an astrophysics major.
That's so cool. All right. If you join Jones, it's friendship bracelet time.
It is friendship bracelet time. Always at Jones.
Yeah. So as arts and wellness coordinator, what kind of initiatives or activities are you most excited or proud of?
I think going back to Friendship Bracelet Friday, that went from kind of a floor event to like a Jones tradition really quickly. And I helped found the Arts and Wellness Committee based around that event because it had become such a central part of my experience at Jones and the experience of like several other people on my floor. And I've been able to expand that and build a committee out of it. This is the first year that we've had an arts and wellness committee. It used to be kind of part of our culturals committee, and we've split it off into two separate things. We've also collaborated with the Magisters to host a couple of different craft nights. Just last night, we were painting little tiny canvases in the Magister's house. Just like building community is something that I'm really proud of with the Arts and Wellness Committee. Even though, like the typical event, it's like 4 or 5 people at a time, people come and go. But even just people walking by will like stop and have a conversation and then leave, even if they're not actively participating. And I think that I've always been a crafty person, so it's really wonderful to have that as a tool to build community, like have that tangible role of being a community builder here at Jones and of sharing a love of art, a love of craft, and a love of people with my community.
So you're on the Jones pit crew for the iconic beer bike. For new students who are coming in, explain a little bit about that role and what you love about it.
Beer bike itself is like a whole thing. But basically what the pit crew does is we are in charge of keeping our bikers safe and of making sure that the race goes smoothly. So that consists of, I would say, 4 different roles. You have the counter, the throwers, the catchers, and the flagger. I typically participate as a flagger. So essentially what I do is when our bikers are on their last lap, I'll wave them down, show them which lane they're supposed to be coming into, and then I'll help get the biker off of the bike afterwards. And then catchers are helping the biker slow down, making sure that they can clip out of the bike effectively, because after a 2-minute mile-long sprint, you're exhausted. And then throwers are giving the bikers like just that extra edge, a little bit of a launch. And the counter is making sure that we are in compliance with the judges and the chug countdown and all of those things. And so the counter kind of just keeps us together. And what I love about being on the pit crew is that it's a way for me to be on the ground at beer bike without having to be an athlete. I very much am not athletic enough to make the Jones bike team. And I'm not a particularly good chugger either. But being on the pit crew has allowed me to like get involved in beer bike in a way that I wasn't able to last year. And I felt like I'd had something to do with something that was so important to Jones culture. It's really just a way, especially being a flagger, to just show off my Jones spirit, to be there for the bikers, to be on the ground, to watch it from right up close. And I think that's really wonderful. And I highly recommend the pit crew to anyone who is considering it.
You have so many leadership roles. With all those leadership roles, how do you stay organized and balanced?
Mostly Google Calendar. My Google Calendar is color coordinated. Each of my classes is a different color. Each of my activities is a different color. I have 2 on-campus jobs currently. Each of those is a different color. And then I rely a lot on the people around me to keep me balanced. When it seems like I'm drowning in things, my friends are more than willing to be like, hey girl, sit down, take a nap, put away the energy drinks, calm down. And I'm more than willing to do the same for them. And I think that kind of community is really important, especially when you're balancing like a multitude of roles. And I think staying on to-do lists are a big thing, staying on top of things, having people to hold you accountable in each of the organizations you're involved in, being engaged in that accountability and holding them accountable too. It's a mutual thing. And just making sure that at the end of the day, you know what you're doing, like maybe the next day, sit down. What time do I need to get up? Should I probably go to bed earlier than I thought I was going to? Like that sort of thing.
You're involved in both the Rice Association for Women in Mathematics and R2, the Rice Review. So you have like a ton of creative interests and a ton of academic interests. So how do you balance those out?
I think the way that I balance those is oftentimes by giving myself the space to engage directly in both of them. I feel like a lot of times people who are creatively inclined are pushed to like set those things aside for their academics, especially with prioritizing R2 and, making the time in my course schedule, making sure that I'm present for events, making sure that I am deeply engaged in that process as a section editor. That gives me a real sense of my creative community at Rice. And it's also allowed me to build friendships that push me to engage in that creative community. And obviously, like, there's a time and a place for everything. So balancing that, it's really a matter of scheduling and giving myself time to transition between things, even when that's difficult, and making friends who are willing to bounce around with you a little bit.
As a section editor for R2, what kinds of stories or submissions are you most drawn to?
In general, I'm really drawn to pieces that find a new way of exploring something that is a relatively common topic. Working in creative nonfiction, a lot of these pieces end up being deeply personal, and submissions come from undergraduate students, so we're all in the same age bracket. So a lot of times, we're hitting on a lot of similar topics. You're hitting on being away from family, having that like first freedom, relationships, navigating relationships is in your late teens and early 20s. A lot of times we get pieces about like religion and like navigating the way that your religious affiliations change as you get older, that sort of thing. But something that makes a piece stand out, even if it falls into a category that we get a ton of, is when those people who are writing a piece in a common genre, I guess you could say, find some way, whether it be through structure or their use of language, a really particularly strong grasp on their voice. Those pieces are really compelling, and they tend to be some of my favorite pieces. Even if it's the third piece I've read on religion that week, when an author really seems to know themselves, it comes through.
What advice would you give to first-year students who are trying to find their place here at Rice this fall?
Sometimes you just have to throw things at the wall and see what sticks. There is a lot of spaces on campus that I have been involved in and no longer am, and a lot of spaces on campus that I wasn't involved in until recently that have become some of my favorite places to be. In particular, I hang out at Martell College and Lubbock College quite a bit. I have tons of friends from both of those places. I only started hanging out at Martell early in my second semester. I only started hanging out at Lubbock towards the end of last semester. And a lot of those people and those places are places where I'm really comfortable, and places that feel like a home away from my home away from home. Jones being my home away from home. Don't be afraid to push yourself, to explore, to get involved in something that you may not always be involved in for the rest of your life. Do strange things, do unconventional things, join language and culture clubs for languages you do not speak. No one's going to kick you out of a club for not like being committed enough to that club, and you just might find community in a place that you didn't expect to.
Well, that's definitely something that everyone's looking for once they get here, is some sort of community. And there's a lot of opportunities, so many clubs.
There is.
What's something you've learned about yourself through your leadership roles at Rice?
This is going to sound a little bit ridiculous, but I've learned that I am capable of being a leader, and that I am capable of speaking in such a way that people are inclined to listen. I think I've always been a big talker, but I think it wasn't until recently and until I started engaging in the community here at Rice in like formal leadership roles that I realized that I could put my voice to use in a really constructive and oftentimes like informative way. And I've realized that I like being a voice for people who may not necessarily want to be a voice for themselves. Not everyone wants to be the person to speak up at a cabinet meeting about. One of my OEEC brothers was really obsessed with getting new shower curtains in Jones last year. And he didn't want to be the one to say it sometimes because he had already said it a couple of times. And, I was more than willing to pipe up and be like, hey, he needs his shower curtains, And even if it's silly things like that, I like advocating for people, and I like being a leader, and I like being in a position where I can advocate for people and where I can lead.
I like that. Now, did you get the shower curtains?
I think they're coming with the next set of renovations.
Okay.
Because they're doing a big overhaul of the Jones communal bathrooms. So eventually, sometime in the next year or two. So maybe I think the shower curtains are coming with that.
That's excellent. And finally, looking back at your time so far at Rice, what moment stands out as especially meaningful?
My birthday last year fell on the last day of spring break, and that last Sunday of spring break. And a lot of my friends either came into town that day or were coming into town that night. We planned to go to dinner with a bunch of my friends, and I had one friend in particular who couldn't make it to the dinner, and that was fine. I was like, okay, your flight gets back late. That's fine. I'll see you Monday morning. In a moment that was already really wonderful because all of my friends had kind of come together to throw me a surprise party, I was just kind of overwhelmed by the amount that these people seem to care for me when in through that door walks the friend of mine that said he wouldn't be able to make it. He missed dinner, but he made it to the surprise party afterwards. And it was 11 p.m. on a Sunday night after spring break. And he had just flown back from home. He'd just gotten off of a 5-hour flight. He still had his suitcase in his hand. And he made it to my birthday party. And he looked at me and he said, I was going to wait and say happy birthday in person. And if I couldn't make it, I was going to send you a text at 11:59. And it was just really, it was like quippy, but it was really sweet. And I think that was one of the first moments that I realized that there was a lot of people here on campus who were looking out for me and who cared about me and who were going to go out of their way for me.
I think that's such a beautiful story. And it just shows how close and caring the Rice community is.
It really is. It really is such a beautiful, close-knit community. And I am so, so, so grateful to be a part of it and to be such an active part of it.
Now, our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
What's your favorite Jones tradition?
I would have to say Night Ride. If there are new students listening, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's very hype and it will be your favorite too.
One word to describe your experience at Rice.
I think I would say beautiful.
Your go-to study spot?
Recently, Levitt Commons.
What's the best meal you've had at a servery?
It was probably Associates Night of the fall of my freshman year. They had this like lobster macaroni for Associates Night. I'm not a big seafood person, but it was quite excellent macaroni.
That's fancy.
It was fancy.
What's your favorite beer bike tradition?
My favorite beer bike tradition has got to be being out there on the track and the energy that you can feel. And Jones also does a victory lap afterwards. I think I have to say the victory lap. No matter what happens on the track, when the track clears out, all of Jones goes out there and we very lightly jog all the way around the track with the Jones flag and the bikers. And it's just a way of like congratulating our bikers and making sure that they know that we appreciate their effort. So I think that's really beautiful.
What's your go-to drink at Chouse?
I am a big strawberry banana smoothie girl.
That sounds excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rachel. And thank you for sharing like your journey and all the different leadership roles that you've had here at Rice. I think especially the incoming first year is a great idea of different roles that they might want to try or different ways that they want to get into, especially if they're more creative. And if they want to make friendship bracelets, they know where to find you on Fridays.
Exactly. 7 to 10 p.m. in Jones.
Thank you for joining us for the Leading Owls podcast. We will be back next week with more leadership journeys and tips to share. New episodes release each Wednesday. For more information on the Door Institute for New Leaders and our free leader development programs for Rice students, please visit door.rice.edu.